As soon as the Senate acts, McConnell turns around and says, oh, I'm not going to do it. The state should declare bankruptcy. Bailout to the blue states. Bailout to the blue states. Again, the most un-American, uncharitable, ugly statement of all times. Bail out New York. You're not bailing out New York. New York has bailed you out. Every year, it's bailed you out. Mitch McConnell is a taker, not a giver. New York is a state of givers. We put more money into the federal pot every year. We're the #1 state in donating to the federal pot. #1. Kentucky is the #3 state in taking from the federal pot. They take out more from the federal pot than they put in. Every year, every year. But this is America. States, one federal pot, you put in what you can, and the states that need it, take it.
So you just saw there Andrew Cuomo slamming Mitch McConnell, saying that this would be a terrible idea. Absolutely not. We shouldn't let states go bankrupt. Now, you guys know I'm not here to just heap uncritical praise on Andrew Cuomo, but on this particular point, he's absolutely right. It's a terrible idea just to let states go bankrupt here. And by the way, I should just let you know, there are constitutional issues, constitutional questions that are being raised about whether or not or in what way that would even really be allowed, although some states have declared bankruptcy in the past, such as Arkansas, and I think like 1933 or something like that. So it is something that does have precedence, but allowing it explicitly, there's some question marks there. But you might be just wondering in general, why is this something that Mitch McConnell would want? Aren't there Republican states too? And isn't it also the case that Republican states tend to, rely more on federal aid and stuff like that? So why is it the case that Mitch McConnell is in favor of letting even Republican states possibly go bankrupt? Well, simple answer right here. This is a great article here from David Frum. Whatever you think about David Frum doesn't matter. This particular article is pretty good. Just sort of lays it out here. So let me just read a piece from it here. A federal law of state bankruptcy, quote, must explicitly forbid any federal judge from mandating a tax hike. You might be wondering then, why would a Republican Senate Majority Leader from Kentucky be willing to squeeze Illinois state pensioners? Why would he care about shielding Illinois state taxpayers? Well, basically here, a federal bankruptcy process for state finances could enable wealthy individuals and interest groups in sort of rich states to leverage their clout in the anti-majoritarian federal system to reverse political defeats in the more majoritarian political systems of the big rich states like California, New York, and Illinois. So basically, there's a lot of interest groups out there in Illinois and California and et cetera, like a lot of the big sort of wealthy Democratic states who had political defeats. But now, with the possibility of bankruptcy, where a federal judge will be overseeing, and a federal judge who, by the way, oftentimes stuffed with Republican Republican judges because they were blocking judges from Obama and then just stuffed the courts with under Donald Trump when they had the ability to do so. So then there's a good chance that a lot of those federal judges will be sort of cutting pensioners, cutting stuff for average workers, cutting stuff for everyday people, while simultaneously in a situation where they can't even raise taxes to raise the revenue. They wouldn't be allowed to under a bankruptcy process. So right. So this is just a situation where Republicans can get more wins. Republicans can sort of move things forward a lot more. Now, the thing, though, that's really important with this is, guys, we talk a lot about how Donald Trump is this great demagogue and how he's really destroying democracy, and he is. Donald Trump has done significant and oftentimes lasting damage when it comes to our democracy, when it comes to our republic. But quite frankly, in my judgment, no one has done more damage to this country, to our democratic and our institutions and our republic than Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is, maybe you can think of someone else, at least recently. I'm not sure that I can think of anyone else. But it's really Mitch McConnell who does all the actual kind of damage that happens. Donald Trump, if anything, more recently just provides cover for Mitch McConnell because Donald Trump distracts while Mitch McConnell actually does the thing. And I think that this goes to a deeper point, which is that, if you go through and read democratic theory like, Aristotle or Madison, they're always talking about the tyrant or the demagogue and how that person who's really ostentatious, really about, has the sort of rhetorical appeal, the energy, that's going to be the person who's able to grab up the, whip up the populist sentiments and able to, sort of wreck our institutions, et cetera, et cetera. But what we've seen more recently, maybe that was the case in the kind of agrarian, sort of more localized societies that they were talking about. But I think what we've seen much more recently when it comes to urban societies, much more societies with much more bureaucracy, it seems to be the case that the people who are really able to leverage things, the people who are really able to damage our institutions, are the people who fly under the radar. I mean, Mitch McConnell, the joke is that he looks like a turtle. Personally, I don't really like to make that attack because I might look like a turtle in 40 years. I really hope not. I really, really hope not. But I might. Who knows? I hope not. But he's definitely not particularly energetic. You watch him speak, and the most exciting that he gets is not exciting at all. Like literally, completely boring. But the things that he does are terrible, right? Like, I mean, you write an article about Donald Trump, everybody talks about it, everybody clicks on it, right? That headline generates energy, generates views. But stuff about Mitch McConnell, maybe. I mean, maybe for the nerds, for the wonks, maybe if you're watching this video, you would care about, something that Mitch McConnell said. But for the average person, whatever. Mitch McConnell, whatever. But those are the kinds of people we've really got to watch out for. I mean, we saw not too long ago when it came to the White House with, John Bolton. John Bolton got kicked out, but because he was so ostentatious, so about that Donald Trump was like, get out of here, right? And John Bolton, by the way, when he was there, yes, John Bolton is a terrible, terrible person who says that the number one foreign policy priority of this country should be engaging in regime change with Iran. Terrible idea, in my opinion. But he wasn't able to really do anything at all because every time he would try to do something, every time he would do something, he would do it in such an about way that everybody saw it, that those people who were in the institutions and capable to stop him would, be notified and would try to do stuff to stop him, right? But when it comes to the guy who replaced John Bolton, Robert O'Brien, I think that's how you say his name, he's literally done significant more damage where it regards goading us into a war with Iran than John Bolton ever did, or quite possibly ever could have done. But right, but he flies under the radar. You never hear about him. You Google his name, there's only a few headlines about stuff because he, like everything he does, really, really quiet. But he's the one who's really goading us in a way that, the more ostentatious people, the more demagogic people, I think that's a word, like wouldn't have really been able to do because people see it, people get the headlines, and then opposition rises against them. So I think that, again, I think that it has to do with, the more urban setting that we have, the more bureaucracy that we have nowadays, where leveraging the system is really done by the kind of pragmatist, the kind of opportunist pragmatist. I think that pragmatist and opportunist are in many ways really the same people, same kind of thing. But I mean, those are the kinds of people that are really able to leverage the system in a way that, we always, and I think, by the way, that the history of democratic theory that, it's always the tyrant, always the demagogue, that those are the people we have to watch out for, has really primed journalists to be particularly worried about Donald Trump and always talking about how Donald Trump is the greatest threat to democracy. But the truth is, in my opinion, Mitch McConnell is far, far, far worse. And we're seeing it right now where every time he takes a win, he wants every single win. He's willing to play hardball in every single way. The only thing he cares about is just power, as opposed to actually having real kind of committed values. I mean, they're vaguely there. They're definitely there. There are specific things that he wants, but it's more so just playing hardball, trying to get more Republican power, get more Republican stuff. And that's the kind of thing that really, really damages us when it comes to democracy. I mean, the stuff that Donald Trump does is terrible, but again, oftentimes it's Donald Trump manages to do it only by being a huge distraction and then allowing other people to go and do that stuff. That's my take. That's my opinion on some of this stuff. And so we've got to watch out for those kind of silent actors, those silent killers who come in and, stab us in the back, stab us in the night. Those are the kinds of people that we really need to watch out for, the kind of, sort of flashy people, it seems. That might have been the worry, a couple hundred years ago when we lived in a more agrarian society. But nowadays, it seems like that dynamic has really shifted. Those are just some of my opinions, some of my thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on. So anyway, if you like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thanks.